Now we have somebody who works for Riverkeeper, which has done a great job here and in many other areas, who has personal experience with all of this, Captain Lipscomb. Tell him what you're captain of.
I run the Riverkeeper patrol boat.
There you go.
And I'm usually on that side of the bulkhead. I've never set foot on this property before, so my job is on the water.
It's the first time for everything.
There is. So thank you, Senator, for inviting us to participate today, and we appreciate your leadership very much on this issue. Riverkeeper, as you know, our focus is to protect and restore the Hudson, so our angle is somewhat different. And it's important to remember that just a few years ago, none of this crude oil transport was an issue. It's not just along the Hudson, it's along the Mohawk, it's along Lake Champlain. And now today it's 2 trains per day on this line, 3 million gallons each. It's about a barge a day down the Hudson at 4 million gallons, and it's a ship a week down the Hudson at 8 million gallons. So a vast amount of Bakken crude oil is moving in the valley. So we here in New York State now face the real possibility of a catastrophic accident and a spill such as have occurred at Lac Megantic in Quebec and Castleton, North Dakota, and Aliceville, Virginia, and Lynchburg, Virginia. Aliceville, Alabama, excuse me, and Lynchburg, Virginia. And, you know, an accident in one place isn't the same as an accident in another place. The Hudson is very vulnerable. We New Yorkers have been trying for decades to undo centuries of abuse to the Hudson. So it's not the same as an accident taking place in the middle of, for example, a grassland. The Hudson can't stand an accident, a crude oil accident at this time as we're trying to recover from PCBs and other issues that have been affecting the Hudson for many years. It's very important to understand one more thing about the threat we face. A lot of people think that if there's a spill, it can be cleaned up. And so the reality is that it can't be cleaned up. The derailment and spill in Lynchburg, Virginia in April, 30,000 gallons were spilled. None was recovered from the river. And the spill in the Mississippi in February this year, 34,000 gallons was spilled and 95 gallons was recovered. These were small spills relatively. Each of those tank cars that went by earlier in that train that had 100 cars or so had 30,000. So that represents one car. That's not a big accident. In both cases, the river current swept the oil away. And what we now know is that rail companies are contemplating moving tar sands crude, which is a sinking crude oil, down the Hudson Valley in the Mohawk. And a spill of sinking oil is a true nightmare because recovery is totally impossible. Now, while we've made a lot of progress in discussion and on paper in the region, in efforts to revise our spill response plans and our recovery capability, so far nothing on the ground has really changed. So we are not any more able to respond today than we were when this trade started. The only way to completely protect the rivers is to not move the product. But until that happens, the only and the best thing that we can do is prevent an accident. And that's why this initiative is so important. We were tipped off by fishermen of the decaying bridges down at Storm King. We saw the rotting foundations on this bridge from our patrol boat. We're getting photos from the Mohawk River, Lake Champlain, other areas in the Hudson Valley. So this is a statewide issue that we face right now. Obviously, it's a national issue, but we're talking about New York State. What the crude oil transport has done is it's brought to light a lack of regulatory oversight on railroads in general, and too great an autonomy that the railroads enjoy. Do truckers get to inspect their own trucks? No. Do oil barge and oil terminal companies get to inspect their barges and tanks themselves? No. The Coast Guard does that. Do commercial aircraft owners get to inspect their own aircraft and sign them off? No. Do you get to inspect your own car? No. But the railroad companies get to inspect their own gear, and they get to decide that they're going to keep tank cars in place that for 2 decades have been found inadequate. We need the same kind of oversight that you have with your personal car and that we have on our highways with 18-wheelers. We need it with rail transport. We need independent, enforceable oversight immediately. Suspect rail infrastructure, like crumbling bridges, need to be immediately inspected by third-party engineers. Traffic must be rerouted around any compromised structures until repairs are made. Not another study, but rerouting the trains so that they are not on the bridges. Then there's no risk. We need those changes, and we need these inspections in place immediately. There's just too much at risk. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Pleasure.
good job. Questions, first on this subject and on others. The